Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Daily Signal's Top 10. Today, we're counting down the top news stories of the week, many of them which went underreported, or in some cases, misreported by the mainstream media. Joining me to break this all down is Jarrett Stetman, our senior contributor at the Daily Signal, and Lindsay Fifield, who is our social media manager. Okay, let's just jump right into it. It's been a crazy week, let's just put it that way. And nothing gets crazier than the item number 10, Eminem attacking Trump. Jarrett, I mean, let's play the clip and then I want to get your take on this.
We got in office now's a kamikaze that'll probably cause a nuclear holocaust. And while the drama pops and he waits for to quiet down, he'll just gas his plane up and fly around till the bombing stops. Plus, he gets an enormous reaction when he attacks the NFL, so we focus on that instead of talking Puerto Rico with gun reform for Nevada, all these horrible tragedies, and he's bored and would rather cause a Twitter storm at the Packers.
Jarrett, what do you think?
Well, that's just what we needed, another celebrity rant on Donald Trump. That's just what America was asking for. I do find it funny that the left gloms on to these characters, these celebrities, who come out and say things that, I have to say, we've heard so many times from others. And to hear somebody like Eminem say that Trump says offensive things, Eminem, of all people, and that he's being lionized now for going after Trump, I find to be quite humorous. I mean, most of his lyrics I couldn't even say on air. That he's saying that Donald Trump is offensive, that he's this bad guy, and that the left is kind of turning him into this hero, I think is a little absurd.
Right. And I think it's also ridiculous that they say that he's brave. Like, how brave is it in leftist Hollywood to say these things? It would be brave for him to say the opposite. But Eminem is not the moral compass that we should be looking for. I mean, if you look at any of his lyrics, like Jarrett said, it's just absurd.
Yeah. Well, let us know what you think. Are you a fan of Eminem or don't like him? Leave a note in the comments, and we'd love to get your perspective on it. Okay, let's jump into number 9. Twitter was in a lot of hot water this week on a number of fronts, both political and in the entertainment, and then even for the Russia investigation. Yeah. But let's watch this clip and see what's going on.
So Rose McGowan has been one of the loudest whistleblowers in the Weinstein scandal, especially on Twitter. But yesterday, she had to switch to Instagram to let people know that her Twitter had been suspended.
Okay, Lindsay, Rose McGowan, what's your take on this?
So here's the thing. Twitter has very clear standards for what they consider abusive behavior, and all users are supposed to abide by these rules and these standards. And Rose McGowan, even though she was a victim and terrible things happened to her, and I admire her bravery for coming out and talking about those things, she published the phone number of someone and invited people to abuse that person. And that is clearly a violation of Twitter's rules. The problem that she got into, or the reason that Twitter's in a lot of hot water now for suspending her, they don't apply that evenly or consistently across the board. A lot of people came forward and said, hey, I've had my phone number published. You guys didn't suspend those users. What's the deal? So I think Twitter does need to be better at being more consistent with who they suspend and who gets that kind of treatment, because it was terrible. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it is funny that of all the people to be attacked for something and to lose her Twitter access is this person who was actually one of the few people you say may have been a little more brave than others in Hollywood and actually condemning what was going on before everybody else was. But this is the person who's now been silenced. I realize the policies that Twitter has, that's understandable. But why go after this person when there are so many others that we see out there that are doing some pretty heinous things on Twitter? So it's a little ridiculous to see her gone after in this case.
Yeah, and let me just say that, I mean, we hear from our Daily Signal users on social media, whether it's Twitter or Facebook, pretty regularly about times they've either been suspended or content that they feel is being censored. So if you've experienced it personally, definitely tell us about that. We're interested in telling those stories as well. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Yes, we're always watching Twitter.
Yeah, we sure are. And Facebook.
Yes.
Okay, number 8. So big news from the Boy Scouts this week.
Oh, man.
Let's play the clip and see what's going on.
Girl Scout says it's about stealing their membership, even suggesting girls might not be safe, pointing to the Boy Scouts' history of sex abuse allegations.
Any parent that let their girl join the Boy Scouts would be putting them at risk, given the fact they haven't fixed the fire burning in their house.
So, Lindsay, here we are at a time when we're having these debates over boys, girls, transgender, all sorts of pronouns, what to use, people being threatened with firings or fines and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And the Boy Scouts come out and they make this decision. Girl Scouts didn't like it.
Right.
You have some personal experience. Tell us about your perspective on this
my mom's going to love this. And I know my mom's watching, so hi, Mom. I hope I get this right because I was a kid. I was a Girl Scout. It was awesome. But we never went hiking, we never did camping, we never got to do all the fun stuff that the boys were doing, and I wanted to do those things, and so I started being a tag-along with my brothers.
Okay.
They were in Boy Scouts, and I found that experience was so much better, and so all the little sisters were able to do it. I didn't want patches, I didn't want to become an Eagle Scout, I just wanted to go hiking with my brothers, and I was able to tag along with them when they were doing Boy Scout stuff. So I don't really understand why girls need to be officially in the Boy Scouts. And I don't understand, I think it actually has to do more with the Girl Scouts are having problems retaining girls because they should stop, maybe focus less on the cookie sales and focus more on doing the things that girls actually want to do. I consider myself a tomboy. I never thought that I was a boy or a Boy Scout. I just wanted to do outdoorsy stuff. Yeah. So I think it kind of needs to go back to that. And then I don't think that this is going to be helping the Boy Scouts with their recruiting at all. If they think that it's going to, I just don't think it's going to help.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing in this. Is I think there are a lot of people that I think the mission of the Boy Scouts is a very good one. They're trying to teach young boys good values and how to act in the woods. I think there are going to be a lot of now splinter organizations that try to do the same things where families say, I don't really care for the politics of the Boy Scouts. They seem to be in decline. Or the Girl Scouts say, well, we're going to create some new organizations to compete with these and still inculcate these values.
And there are some great ones. If you guys have heard of the Heritage, it's not affiliated with the Heritage Foundation, but they're the Heritage Scouts, and it's actually, I think, for girls, and then there's another one for boys. We can leave some links in the comments where people are already kind of gravitating towards these other scouting groups anyway. They're focused on conservation, they're not political, and the BSA and the Girl Scouts of America have become really, tell us in the comments if you guys have experienced this kind of stuff, or if you're Boy Scouts or have kids that are Boy Scouts and have experienced kind of the politicization that's happened over the last few years. It's really sad.
Yeah, it seems that everything, and Jarrett, we can get into this a little later in the show, but everything comes down to politics now, and we saw that long before this decision by the Boy Scouts. Okay, let's jump into number 7. So, talking about people who, or companies that came under fire, Dove was another one. We'll roll the clip on this.
Well, the black woman in the Dove ad says she was excited to take part in it, and she still feels like it's empowering when viewed in the proper context. Her name is Lola Ogunyemi. She wrote an op-ed which appeared in The Guardian yesterday. Lola says the 30-second version showed a variety of women and promotes inclusiveness, while a 3-second clip of that 30 seconds went viral, depicting what appeared to be Ogunyemi turning into a white woman. People are saying it makes it seem like black equals...
Okay, so Lindsay, help us understand what's going on here. Is this just another case of people being overly sensitive?
It actually wasn't. Well, maybe a little bit of both. People are extremely sensitive, and these are, third rail issues that you don't really want to touch. The PR disaster was completely preventable. There was no reason why someone should have seen this in a boardroom and said, wait a minute, this is not a good look. I saw just a screenshot of the ad and immediately was like, no way, you should never. So I can't believe that this got past so many teams of PR professionals. This is a major brand making a pretty dumb
But the model
mistake.
said it wasn't racist.
I actually really did appreciate that the model came out and said, look, this wasn't intended badly. This is, it was all a misunderstanding. And I appreciated her coming out and say that, because that does take a lot of bravery to come out and say,
oh,
hey,
sure. Yeah.
Forget the social media pylon. This wasn't what it was supposed to be. Dove's not a bad company. They're not a racist company. They just made a mistake with the optics of an ad, which I think a lot of brands have done. And now I think Dove will be very careful in the future.
It is interesting. The consequences of what appears in this case to be an innocent mistake in the modern media, that if you do jump into one of these, as you said, third rail issues, you make one mistake and bang, it is all over social media. You have activists coming after you. So it is incredible that this kind of got through without anybody saying, well, gee, maybe this is not the best idea. Right. But at the same time, this is the media culture that we're in. This stuff is going to happen with a big company like Dove.
Totally.
It sure is. Well, and speaking of media, let's look at number 6, because Michael Wilbon, ESPN. By the way, can we just go a week without talking about the NFL? So, anyways, let's jump right into this, because Jerry Jones obviously took a stand this week. President Trump tweeted about it. saying he supported Jerry Jones. Let's watch the clip, and we'll talk about it.
And the word that comes to my mind, I don't care who doesn't like me using it, is plantation. The players are here to serve me, and they will do what I want no matter how much I pay them. They are not equal to me. That's what this says, to me and mine.
So, Jarrett, what's your perspective on this one?
Yeah, it is. I have to say, I mean, I feel it's a ridiculous comparison that he's making. I mean, these are players that make millions of dollars in a profession which they're playing a game, which is the NFL. I mean, the idea that this is comparable to slavery, guys who are making millions of dollars who have a choice whether they play or not, whether they sit or stand. I mean, they have an employer like most everybody else in America.
Right.
If you say something that goes against your employer, there may be consequences. I think most people understand that. The idea that a player may get pressure from his organization to say, well, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that, I think it's something that, frankly, most people understand who work in other businesses. That's going to happen. So I think the comparison to like the institution of slavery, I think is a very bad one, and I think it makes the whole situation ridiculous.
Finally, do you have any predictions on what will happen on Sunday?
You know, I think the NFL is getting a lot of pressure right now, and I think they're definitely starting to kneel to this pressure because they know that a lot of their fans are so upset, and I think that the bottom line is the dollar amounts that the NFL is losing because people are going away. They're not watching the games. The ratings are way down in a sport that everybody thought was the king of professional sports in America. And I think what you're seeing is the league saying, wow, we are losing viewers. We are losing these committed fans who've stuck with us for years and years in our most important demographics who say no more. We've got to change this or this league is going to be in trouble.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, from sports to schools, let's talk about the middle school that gave its students a sexual identity quiz. Here's the clip for number 5.
Why are they teaching that in school? What does that have to do with life?
Octavia Parks, who was out of town when we spoke, says she was shocked when her 12-year-old daughter came home with an assignment on sexuality from a health class at Lithonia Middle School on Wednesday. It has 10 questions asking 6th graders to identify various sexual preferences or identities like gay, lesbian, and transgender.
Lindsay, I understand you have a strong opinion on this
so
one.
much to say, and I know our people in the comments always love when we talk about this stuff because you probably, if you have kids in school, you know that this is a big fight. I was homeschooled. Thank you, Mom, for homeschooling me.
Yes.
Because things like this, it's so funny. She pulled us out of public school in the 90s because of the leftward pull. And I think a lot of parents started pulling their kids out. And so what I actually think that a lot of conservatives almost like ceded ground to the left because they pulled their kids out and started homeschooling them. We had Sam Sorbo here this week. I think that it's great. You know, I'll put that video in the comments. She makes a really strong case for homeschooling, but also for parents who can't homeschool or for parents who are in these situations, they have these things happening to their kids. You absolutely need to fight these policies. We've highlighted here at the Daily Signal. We've had stories of parents who have fought back and they've won. If you band together and you get together with parents, you will win against these school boards. They can't get away with this kind of stuff if you fight back.
Yeah, I think a really important thing to note is school choice. I mean, we keep talking about school choice, and some people say, well, it boosts test scores and things like that. But on this stuff, it's very important as well. I mean, the schools that you're sending your kids to, sometimes they have values that you vehemently disagree with.
Right.
The only option for a lot of parents is sending your kids to another school, one that conforms with your values or you think supports good things. And I think that's something that people really understand with the school choice movement is it gives you options. If your school has something ridiculous like a sexual identity test for kindergartners,
right,
you can pull them out and go somewhere else that'll teach them better things. So
like math and science and English, these are things that kids are struggling and falling behind, our test scores are lower. We need to start working on those issues and stop giving them these super political quizzes for no reason.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think that's going to stop. As we've covered a whole lot of transgender guidelines for kindergartners and things like that in schools. This really isn't going to stop, especially in our public schools. And I think it's time that we look for other options as parents, as concerned members of the community.
Well, I do. I kind of have to disagree with you. I agree with you that this kind of thing is going to keep happening. But I really do just encourage anyone and any parents who have kids in school, don't give up and don't kind of give in to this. Like, make your voices heard and make sure that the school knows that you're not okay with this kind of stuff happening. Yeah,
I think that's really important. As a parent of two kids, we did make a choice in the last year, and our kids are in a different school than they were last year. Yeah. But Jarrett, to your point, I think in some locations, it's easier said than done. So there are some states that have really incentivized school choice, and I think of the education savings accounts. But then there are some places where either parents don't have the financial means to do it, or there are liberal politicians like right here in Washington, D.C. who want to take away that option. So it's definitely something that you need to fight on the local level and probably in the legislative level. So.
Absolutely.
That's a big issue for us here. Yeah. Okay, number 4, the Detroit firefighter who was fired for bringing a watermelon to work. Let's roll the clip.
It's not mandatory, it's voluntary. You come in, you're bearing gifts. You might bring some, the usual gift is donuts, okay? But you're allowed to bring in whatever you want to bring in.
And Pattison, a probationary firefighter, decided to bring this watermelon with a pink ribbon on top. We're told some African-American firefighters were instantly offended, since 90% of the people who work at Engine 55 are black.
Okay, so one of the more bizarre stories of the week, I think, fair to say. Here you had a situation where this was his first day on the job, and he even had the black firefighters coming to his defense.
Which
Lindsay,
was so great.
What's going on here?
So this was nuts. I mean, I actually really loved all of his brothers at the firehouse, his new firehouse, came out together and in a unified voice said, we're all African Americans and this is ridiculous. This is just completely bananas. What's so funny is, you guys know, this is totally something that I would do. The tradition at this firehouse is you bring in pastries or you bring in donuts or some junk food, and he brought in fruit. I'm a health nut. I would totally be the person who would bring in fruit, thinking like, oh, I'm going to bring in a healthy option. And so that's what this guy was thinking. I think it's absolutely crazy that the union or whoever it was that fought this guy attacked him for bringing water. Like, I would never have even made that connection, and he certainly did not make that connection. And I'm glad that his brothers at the firehouse agreed and thought that it was completely strange. It was meant with good intentions and nothing untoward or bad. And I just think it's sad because, you know, there's so much actual racism out there, and like we've said before on this show, when things like this happen, it kind of downplays the actual evils that are in the world because people kind of throw their hands up like, what is this?
And you're absolutely right about the food culture. In fact, as the son of a firefighter, I know that there's a huge food culture, guys cooking, and there's a lot of camaraderie there. And as you said, it's great to see that his brothers in the fire department rallied around him. Even though he got axed by the fire department, which is too bad, I think, you know, certainly a case of people being a little overly sensitive and this guy not knowing what he's jumping into. And it's sad to see this. It's sad to see a guy losing his profession over this silly thing.
Yeah, and especially somebody who they said was eminently qualified and a great firefighter. I mean, you just think like he could actually be out there doing productive, really life-saving work, and now he's not over something like this.
It's crazy.
Okay, so one of the bigger stories that was on the front pages and news all week, California. Jarrett, you're a native of California. Let's roll the clip and then let's talk about what's going on.
Now, this was the Cardinal Newman High School. You can see what the intensity of these fires can do to places like this. And with the death toll here rising to 23 overnight, the focus now is not saving property, it's just saving lives.
So over 30 people have lost their lives, thousands evacuated. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, this really, I guess you could say, affects me personally. I'm from Northern California. A lot of these towns like Santa Rosa that we've seen look like it looks like a town from World War II that's been bombed out. And I used to go there growing up. I'm from these places. My father was an Alameda County firefighter. He's retired. He was evacuated from Rough and Ready, California as these fires came through at 4 in the morning. And it's a very scary thing for people. I know I've been in the Oakland Hills fire and others, that how terrifying it is. And I do tell people at home, if you're in the way of these fires, which are still raging out of control in California, don't wait. Get out. When the fire department tells you need to leave, they're saying it for a reason. And so many people, they underestimate the power of a fire and how fast it can move on you. These fires can move at the speed of the wind. So if there are 50-mile-per-hour winds, it'll come at you at 50 miles per hour. Don't sit around. Don't wait for the evacuation order. Get out, get your loved ones, and go as quickly as possible. So, you know, it's really a tragic thing to see. This is the deadliest now fire in California history, and so much of these beautiful places have been burned to the ground. And it's unfortunate that we've seen, I would say, a huge uptick in these fires over the years. But, you know, I think California will recover after this. We certainly have before, but it's really hard to see.
And we had Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke here at the Heritage Foundation recently, and he talked about some of the federal land use policies that he thinks are partially to blame for the out-of-control nature. So there is a policy component to this, but our prayers go out to all those who are affected. And if you are affected or know family who are, please tell us in the comments about their story. Let us know that they're okay. Okay, let's move to number 2, sticking with California, although on a much different note. Harvey Weinstein, big news all week. Our colleagues, Kelsey Harkness and Bree Payton of The Federalist, did a show on this and talked at length. Problematic Women. Encourage you to check out that Daily Signal show as well. Let's take a look at the clip here.
To write it with me, he's used to writing the, get out of the chopper kind of dialogue, and he wanted to write some real dramatic, human emotional, dialogue, and so that's what we did. So if you go to the website and you look at the testimonials, on one of the testimonials, it starts with a woman who's still like sort of crying about the movie, and she says, "This is the movie that I wanted to see." You know what I mean? Like, and so I'm hoping that a lot of people feel that way. It opens nationally on October 26th.
Okay, obviously a lot of news to unpack here, and I think one of the points that Kelsey and Katrina Trinko made in some of their commentary for the Daily Signal.
Oh, great piece from her.
Yeah,
Kurt,
we'll
put
leave
that
a link
in the comments because it's really good.
And you have similar sentiments from what I understand.
Oh, absolutely. Katrina really nailed it, and we'll put her piece in the comments, and Kelsey also on Problematic Women, which was awesome. This isn't just an open secret, and it's not just Harvey Weinstein. I think what we're really seeing now, and we've had other people coming out. Corey Feldman came out today, and others. This is just the tip of the iceberg, and this is like a systemic culture in Hollywood. These are people who write every show that you watch, they write every movie you watch, and they craft all the entertainment that you're seeing. And I think now it's kind of more important for us to take a step back and think, like, are these really the people that we want driving the boat? We had, like I mentioned earlier, Sam Sorbo was here. She has a great new movie coming out. And I think this is a good time for us to step back and say, maybe we shouldn't let these awful people with these terrible values be the people that are and I don't even know how to say it, but they're influencing our value system.
And they have such a dominant presence though in the industry, to the point, Jarrett, where there's like an underground society of conservatives that gets together in secret, right? I mean, it's just amazing.
It's crazy.
And it's so obnoxious to see that frankly, the moralizing that you get from the media, Hollywood, you get this kind of moralizing, and then you see this kind of thing happen. I think that's why people are so outraged or so angry, because every day, we get these clips from celebrities saying, Americans, you should believe this, you should believe that. And what you see is not only are these creeps there in Hollywood, but everybody around it basically lets it happen. They all know about this. And, I would say, counter this with how people reacted to Vice President Mike Pence when he came out and talked about, dinners with women and things like that, wanting to create, barriers around his interactions with women. He was mocked so viciously for this thing.
By Hollywood.
By Hollywood, by the press. And yet, here's a person who's actually doing terrible things, who was basically looked over for years. I mean, that shows the kind of hypocrisy. And I think people in Middle America in particular really get this, why this is so bad, and just are blown away by what they see as all these terrible things happening in what is America's, preeminent cultural institution.
Right, and we've been talking about this. We've talked about this probably for the past couple of weeks here on the show. Just Jimmy Kimmel and others kind of preening and moralizing and telling us, like, this is what you should believe. And I think it now is even more hypocritical.
Yeah, I absolutely see that, and I'm sure that when this story has come out, that there will be more that follow. He's not going to be the only guy that has to deal with this kind of stuff, so I think it's just going to get worse from here.
Totally.
Well, let's end on a positive note. By the way, if you have any any comments on that and in your perspective, make sure you leave them in the comments, because we love to hear from you on that. Okay, number 1. The farmer who plowed. We stand for the national anthem. Let's look at this.
I just disagree with the kneeling for the national anthem. I didn't think it was anything about black, white, or brown, Democrat or Republican. It was all about honoring our flag and our country. There's a lot of people that died for it, so I thought that it should be honored.
So there's some good news, Jarrett.
I love the patriotic pride from Americans, and to see this happening in a farmer's field, who's done these kind of things before. He's put other kind of symbols and things. But I do love to see this, and it shows you why the NFL is in trouble. I mean, Middle America, it really stands for the flag and the national anthem, and people aren't too happy about guys sitting down for that. I think it shows kind of the spirit of America. We are so proud. We're such a patriotic people that I think these things are the norm and commonplace, maybe like almost no other place in the world. So I really like seeing this.
This is the stuff that should get a lot of attention. And of course, this wasn't covered by the media. I'm glad that we're covering it here because it just shows, I mean, as a kid of a farmer, I'm a little biased, but farmers are some of the most patriotic people. They love this country. They work so incredibly hard. And this is exactly what I would expect from a farmer. Very, very patriotic. They don't wax and wane based on who's in the White House. They love America today, tomorrow, forever.
That's right. Well, and
fired up.
I also think it's one of the reasons that there's been acts like this, and it's probably why Roger Goodell felt so much pressure to come out and make his statement the way he did, saying he expects the players to stand, move beyond this, because we are, as you both said, a patriotic country at heart, and it's important to all of us. So, okay, well, that wraps the show for today. Thank you all for joining us. We want to make sure you tune in next week, same time and same place, for our Top 10 Countdown. And we want to leave you today with this inspiring clip of coal miners singing the national anthem just before going down into the mine. We hope this inspires you. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rang loud, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Woo! Okay!
Thank you.